All right, so this next video is going to go over the second page of your study guide for our test on Friday, which is looking at our metric conversions. So let's start up here with number 5. Now, number 5 is actually taking a look back at what we were talking about with fractions. So you are going to see just a few review questions on this test. One of those will be on fractions. So let's look at what number 5 says. Jeff bought 6 roses for his mother. 2/3 of them were red. How many red roses were there? All right, so there are a few ways that we can solve this problem. The first way that we're going to solve it is by looking at what it says here in our problem. Jeff has 6 roses. 2/3 of them were red. So 2/3 of the 6 roses were red. So I can think of that as 2/3 of 6. Well, I know that when I see of, that tells me to multiply. So I can also say that this is 2/3 times 6. When I multiply a fraction by a whole number, I have to turn that whole number into a fraction. And I do that by putting it over 1. And now the standard algorithm tells me that I can just multiply the top and I can multiply the bottom. So I know that 2 times 6 equals 12, and 3 times 1 equals 3. So my answer is 12/3. However, when I look down here, I see that all of the answers are written as whole numbers, and this is written as an improper fraction. I know that fractions are the same thing as division, so while this is 12/3, I can also read it as 12 divided by 3. And I know that 12 divided by 3 is equivalent to 4. So my answer is 4 roses, and C says 4 roses. So that's one way you could have solved this problem. Another way that you could have solved this problem is you could have actually drawn it out. You could have drawn out your 6 roses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 roses there. And it says that 2/3 of them were red. So I would have to divide my 6 roses into 3 groups. So I'm going to divide it here, and I'm going to divide it here, so that I have 3 equal groups. Again, fractions are just division. And of those 3 groups, it says that 2/3 of them were red. So 2 out of the 3 groups. So this one was red, and this group was red. That's 2 out of my 3 groups. Then all I have to do is count how many roses were red. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it tells me that 4 roses were red. So that's also what you could have done to solve this problem. Either way would have worked. All right, let's look at number 6. Mrs. Smith is making curtains for her windows. She needs 25 feet of cloth. Which amount will be enough to make the curtains? So let's look at what my answers are. Well, first, no, let's look at what my question's asking. All right, Miss Smith is making curtains, and she's using 25 feet of cloth. So I know that what I've got is 25 feet. Now, what do I need to change it into? Well, let's look. I've got an answer in yards. I've got an answer in inches. I've got an answer in yards and feet, and I've got an answer in inches. So it seems to me that I'm going to need to convert 25 feet into yards, and I'm going to need to convert 25 feet into inches to figure out which of these is going to be correct. So let's start by taking 25 feet and seeing how many yards. So feet to yards, I'm going from small to big, so I'm going to divide that pig. So 25 divided by. Now, what am I going to divide it by? I'm talking about feet and yards. So I'm going to go back to my front where it talks about the conversion chart. And I'm going to look at where it says feet and yards. And I see right here that 1 yard equals 3 feet. So I know that I'm going to be using that 3. So let's go back over to our problem. Again, we said small to big, divide that pig. So I'm going to take 25 and I'm going to divide it by 3 because there are 3 feet in a yard. All right, so 3 can go into 25. Well, it can't go into it evenly, but I know that 3 can go into 24 8 times. And 3 times 8 is going to give me 24. So if I were to take away 24 from 25, there would be 1 left over. That 1 left over, remember, is going to be your foot. So I have 8 yards and a leftover 1, which is going to be my 1 foot. Wow, so right away I see an answer. 8 yards and 1 foot. Well, that's what I've got. So that must be the right answer, right? Well, hold on a minute. Let's double check ourselves here. Let's go ahead and take 25 feet and turn it into inches just to make sure. So let's take our 25 feet and turn it into inches. This time I'm going from feet to inches. I'm going from big to small, so I need to multiply them all. I'm going to take 25 and I'm going to multiply it. Well, what am I going to multiply it by? I'm talking about feet and inches, so let's go back over here to our conversion chart. And where does it have feet and inches? Right here in our length section, 1 foot equals 12 inches. So I'm going to need to multiply it by 12. So I'm going to do 25 times 12. 2 times 5 is 10, carry your 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 0, cross out. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 2 is 2. We're going to add it up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. So 25 feet is equivalent to 300 inches. Do I see anything over here that says 300 inches? I do not. So I know that the only answer that's correct is when I converted 25 feet to yards, because I got 8 yards, because that gave me 24 feet, and then I had that extra 1 foot left over. So my answer must be B. That's a lot of work for one problem, but you can do each piece of what I did. But you are going to have to stick with it. All right, let's go back over here and look at number 7. And you can see that my Sharpie bled through it, but we should still be able to solve this problem. All right, this is another problem that's going back to something we've learned before. We're trying to find the value of the expression, and we know that this is an order of operations expression, so we are going to have to use PEMDAS. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write PEMDAS on my paper to make sure that I'm going to solve it correctly. We always start with that P. P stands for parentheses. When I look over here, I see that they actually have quite a few parentheses. I've got a parentheses here, here, and here. Which one do I start with? Yep, I'm always going to start with the smallest one. So I'm going to go all the way in to this parenthesis here, 8 minus 3. And this is going to be where I start. And I know that 8 minus 3 is 8, 7, 6, 5. It gets me 5. I bring everything else down. So I bring that 7 plus, make sure I bring my bracket, times 2, bring that bracket, minus 5, plus 10. All right, I still have parentheses that I need to work on, so I'm going to come to the next smallest parentheses, which is this piece here. Now, there are 2 operations within the parentheses, so how do I know which one to do first? I need to come over here and look at my PEMDAS. I still follow this order. So I see that multiplication comes before addition, so I'm going to solve the multiplication piece first. So I see that 5 times 2 is going to give me 10. I bring everything else down. All right, still in parentheses. Again, go to the smallest one. I've got it right here. 7 plus 10 is going to give me 17. Bring everything else down. I've still got parentheses, so I'm still here. Now I've got 17 minus 5. So I'm going to solve that out. 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. That's going to give me a 12 plus my 10. Finally, parentheses are done. No exponents, no multiplication or division from left to right. So I'm left with addition and subtraction from left to right. All that's left is 12 plus 10, which gives me the answer of 22. And I circled it because when Miss Ross grades my test, I want to make sure that she sees my answer. So I circle it. A lot of steps there. It's very important that we keep our work nice and neat. Yes? This might have been something that I should have done on another sheet of paper, perhaps a scratch paper, just to make sure that I got it correct. All right, so hopefully you remember how to do order of operation problems. Let's look at number 8. A recipe for a cake requires 1 25 cups of milk, 40 hundredths cups of oil, and 75 hundredths cups of water. How much liquid is in the mixing bowl? All right, so when I first read this problem, I thought that I was going to have to be converting measurements because I saw cups. But actually what it's asking me to do is it's asking me to add up, right? It's asking me to add up the 1.25 cups of milk, the 0.40 cups of oil, and the 0.75 cups of water. Each of these are in cups, which means that I can go ahead and add them without having to convert anything. Now, I don't have enough room on here, so I am going to bring my scratch piece of paper over. All right, so I've got 1.25 cups of milk, 0.40 cups of oil, and 0.75 cups of water. I'm going to add those up. All right, so I'm going to sing my song and make sure I'm doing it right. When you add decimals, this is what you do. Line up the decimals straight and true. If you see a blank space, put a 0 in. Now add them up from right to left, and now you've reached the end. So I didn't actually have to add any zeros, so that was easy for me. 5 plus 5 is 10, carry your 1. 7 plus 2 plus 1 is going to give me to 10. Add that 4 is going to give me to 14. Carry that decimal right down. 1 plus 1 is 2. So my answer is 2 with a decimal. Oops, can I see that? And then 0.40 cups. So let's see if any of those are my answer. Well, I don't see any answer that's got 2 wholes and 40 hundredths. But I do see an answer A, which has 2 wholes and 4 tenths. And if I remember what I learned in class, I remember that the 0 on the end doesn't matter. So I could take that away, and I would have the same answer. Because 4 tenths is equivalent to 40 hundredths. So the answer is A. Do you see how I solved my problem before looking at my answers? That's just a way for me to double check. If I got the same answer as what's up here, I probably got it right. Although it's still good for me to double check my math and make sure I did it correctly. All right, moving right along to this bottom part. Directions. It's always important to read our directions first. For questions 13 through 16, complete the measurement conversions with the correct missing number or unit of measure. All right, so I've got some more conversions coming up. So let's look at number 9. Number 9 says 10 cups equals 5 blank. So it's looking for a unit of measurement. So I'm going to, let's see, I need to recreate my land of gallon picture because I don't know where I put the other one. All right, so let's recreate it real quick by singing that song. In the land of gallon, there lived 4 queens. Each and every queen had just 2 things, a prince and a princess to call their own, and each prince and princess had 2 children of their own. Each of the children were 8 years old, and that's the land of gallon, or so I've been told. All right, so there's all of my cups, and I'm going to go and put those 8 right next to it to show that there's 8 fluid ounces in every cup. I tried to make them bigger so I could fit the 8s inside. Make sure when you draw this for your test that you use up a nice large chunk of paper so you can see all of those measurements in there. Okay, so let's look at number 9. Number 9 says 10 cups equals 5 blank. So I'm going to find my 10 cups. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, so there's my 10 cups. So what do I have 5 of looking at this picture? Well, I know I don't have 5 gallons because I'm only talking about 1 gallon, so it's definitely not gallons. Well, what about quarts? I can see that I filled up this 1 quart, I filled up this 1 quart, and I filled up half of this quart. So that gives me 1, 2, 2.5. So it's not quarts. So let's look at pints. I filled up this pint, 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 and I filled up this pint. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I filled up 5 pints. Well, 10 cups equals 5 blanks, so this answer must be 5 pints. Do you see how I used my picture to find my answer? All right, let's look at the next one. The next one is talking about ounces to pounds. So I'm not going to use my land of gallon for this, but I do think I need a little bit of scratch paper. So I'm going to come down here. All right, so I have blank ounces equals 2 1/2 pounds. So even though they wrote it backwards, I know that what I start with is my pounds because it's what I have. I'm going from pounds to ounces. I'm going from big to small, so I need to multiply them all. So I have 2 1/2 times. What am I going to multiply it by? Well, I need to know how many ounces are in a pound. So let's go back to my conversion chart. Find where it says ounces and pounds. Right here. 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So I'm going to need to multiply it by 16. All right, so I'm going to multiply this by 16. Now, this is tricky because they're taking me back to multiplication with fractions. I know that I'm going to need to get mad to turn this into an improper fraction. M stands for multiplication, so I'm going to say 2 times 2 equals 4. A stands for addition. I'm going to say 4 plus 1 equals 5. D stands for denominator. I keep my denominator the same. So 2 1/2 is equivalent to 5 halves. Now I'm going to multiply this by 16, but when I multiply by a whole number, I have to remember to turn that whole number into a fraction. So I'm going to put it over 1. We multiply the top and we multiply the bottom. 16 times 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. That gives me 80. 2 times 1 is 2. So I have 80 over 2. I know that fractions are the same thing as division, so I can also read this as 80 divided by 2. So how many times can 2 go into 80? Well, let's make it easier. How many times can 2 go into 8? Well, I know that answer is 4, and I add on the 0 to make it 40. 2 times 40 is 80. When I subtract it out, I make 0. So my answer is 40. So 40 ounces equals 2 1/2 pounds. So my answer is 40. A lot of work, a lot of remembering things we've done in past units. This is why it's so important that you're doing the study guide, and I'm so glad that you're listening to this video. It's going to help you a lot on your test. Let's look at number 11. Number 11 says 14 yards equals 42 blank. Okay, so we're looking for another unit. All right. So I know that this is either going to be feet or it's going to be inches probably. So I'm going to use a little estimating. I'm going to think to myself, it's getting bigger, so I need to go from big to small, multiply. Okay, so I know I'm going to have to go smaller, but feet and inches are both smaller. So, well, let's just go from yards to feet, and if that doesn't work, we'll keep on going down to inches. All right? So, here we go. I've got 14 yards is equivalent to how many feet? Okay? So I'm going from yards to feet. I'm going from big to small, so I'm going to multiply. What am I going to multiply it by? Let's go back to our conversion charts. Talking about yards and feet, 1 yard equals 3 feet. So I'm going to need to multiply it by that 3. So I'm going to have to do 14. I'm going to do it up and down, times 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 42 feet. Well, hey, that worked out really well because I'm looking for something with 42. So I don't need to go to inches because I've already found my answer. And the answer is feet. We're looking at the feet unit. Nice. All right, let's look at number 12. Finally, we see a metric unit, right? We like metric units because they're easier for us to do. It's all about that power of 10. So let's look at what we've got. I've got 0.6 meters equals 60 blank. Again, it's looking for that unit. But this one's going to be easier because all I have to do is I have to look at how the decimal moved. So I can see that the decimal started out before the 6 and it ended after that 0. Well, how many hops did it take? It took 1, 2. It took 2 hops. What does that mean, 2 hops? It means 2 zeros. So it changed by a value of 100. Did it get bigger or did it get smaller? It got bigger, which means that we multiplied. We multiplied it by 100. Big to small, multiply them all. I know this unit is going to have to be smaller than meters, and it's going to have to be 100 times smaller than meters. So let's go look at our conversion chart. Here it is over here, talking about meters. So what is 100 times smaller than a meter? Boom, centimeters. Centimeters are 100 times smaller than a meter. So my unit of measurement is centimeter. Did you see how we did that? It's all about your hops. It's all about your hops, and if you made your number bigger or if you made your number smaller. Whew! All right, a lot of work on this page. We've got one more question, number 13. Number 13 says, Mary and Lucy are baking a cake. Mary pours 4 cups of water in a bowl, and Lucy pours 1 quart of water in a bowl. Mary claims that she has more water than Lucy because 4 is more than 1. Do you agree with Mary? Why or why not? Well, this problem sounds similar to one we had on one of our quizzes. So I'm going to pull back out my land of gallon picture to help me out. Okay? So Mary's saying she poured 4 cups of water. 4 cups of water. Okay, so here are my 4 cups. I've got a cup here. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. So that's what Mary poured. She poured 4 cups of water. Okay? Lucy pours 1 quart of water. So Lucy's pouring a quart. She's pouring this right here. One of those. So Mary poured 4 cups. Lucy poured a quart. Well, wait a minute. If I'm using my land of gallon correctly, I can see that 4 cups equals a quart. So if Mary poured 4 cups and Lucy poured a quart, they poured the same amount of water. So let's go back over here. Mary claims that she has more water than Lucy because 4 is more than 1. Do you agree with Mary? Why or why not? Well, I don't agree with Mary, so I'm going to say no. P of Q, do you agree with Mary? No. I do not agree with Mary. Why? Because I know that 4 cups equals 1 quart. Therefore, nice transition word there, I know that Mary poured the same amount as Lucy. No, I do not agree with Mary because I know that 4 cups equals 1 quart. Therefore, I know that Mary poured the same amount as Lucy. Did I answer the question? Do you agree with Mary? Why or why not? So I answered my question. All right, so this video went over the 2nd page of your study guide. Hopefully you've watched it or watched the pieces that you need and you've gotten a little bit more help for your test on Friday. The next video is going to go over the next part of the test or the study guide. So I'll see you in that video.